Hello, friends. Welcome to the third episode of Tactics and Tentacles, tabletop role playing game Battlefield Survival with me, the Drungeon Master. To remind the audience, I am a retired Army officer with 30 years of service. That means I'm really old, so I have some slight familiarity with small unit tactics. Couple of admin notes. This will be the last Sunday show. I'm going to move this to Mondays at 8 a.m. Excuse me, 8 p.m. Just because on Sunday mornings I like to sit around and drink coffee normally rather than having to get going on producing a show. So from here on out, less this Monday where there will be no show. This show will be on Mondays at 8 p.m. So we are going to talk today about attacks to the flank. We addressed this in our very first episode when I analyzed an attack conducted by a group that I game master for, in which they attacked a mind flayer and a drow priestess by conducting a fixing attack from the front and then finding an alternate route around where they established an attack by fire position, and just how effective that was. In this instance, we're going to talk a little bit about how it works more on the defense. So, to set the stage for this first map, this is a game I'm actually a player in which I play Owain, who is a communist rogue with a surprisingly in-depth knowledge of small unit tactics. Shocking, right? The communist portion just kind of came out of nowhere in one of our early sessions, and it was just, I play it for laughs mostly. So what was going on here? And the sharp-eyed will note that this is actually the old Caves of Chaos map, because this is a Dungeons & Dragons game played under the old school rule set. Very similar to really, really old AD&D. It's very much a throwback game. So we were assaulting, or planning on assaulting, this hobgoblin cave here, Cave F. And there was, well, that is just a bloody kick in the... Whoops. That's what happens when you accidentally press the sleep key while moving stuff around on your desk. So, we were assaulting Cave F, and it was a locked, barred door, thick oak, iron bound. We did not have the oomph to go through it. However, one of our sharp-eyed players noted that there was a flue for a fire right over here. So we got the cunning idea that we would block up that flue and smoke them out, and then ambush them as they came out. Worked like a champ. We blocked the flue. They started coughing and coughing. We'd formed basically a U-shaped ambush around the entrance. And as the hobgoblins came staggering out, we started plunking them off. Great move. Worked like a charm. However, there is more than one faction operating within this area. And the goblins, who also live in the area, decided to come and mess with us. Now, it began with, we started receiving rocks from this group of trees here. Now, we were still trying to focus on the hobgoblins. Now, we have our good buddy Grinswine, and anybody who's played in this OSR games knows that Owain, my character, and Grinswine are great friends. Grinswine is a goblin that we kidnapped and charmed to work with us, and Owain has formed quite the bond with Grinswine. But anyway, Grinswine realizes that these are goblin children just chucking rocks from this woodline. And I should also point out it's dark, so we can't see very clearly. And that this is a distraction. So here we've had the enemy conducting a demonstration in order to attract our attention and fix our focus. We were able to avoid that. We focused here. We continue to focus on the hobgoblins trying to emerge from the cave. What we didn't know was that there were goblins, goblin archers and footmen, trying to come around and maneuver onto our flank. Now, what is a flank? A flank is the side of a military force. It's basically it. Also, it's a really good piece of steak. So, why is that a big deal? Well, most of us, if you think about one person, most of the time your focus is in front of you, right? Whatever you're looking at. Things that are coming at the side, they don't get as much attention. You can't really see my hands here. Maybe I should make my image bigger. Things that are coming up the side don't receive as much attention. And it's hard to deal with two things at once, right? You can focus on what's in front of you, or you can focus on what's coming from the right, but you can't focus on both. So, attacking into the flank is a very traditional and, to this day, extremely effective way of dealing with an opposing military force. You fix them from the front, and then you maneuver to their I really have to realize that you guys can't see my hands. You fix them to the front, and then you maneuver to the side, right? You take the flank. That way, you bypass where their attention is focused. Where their attention is focused is where their weapon systems are more likely focused. So you're literally maneuvering around their fields of fire and attacking them from a direction in which they cannot respond as effectively. Now, growing up as a young platoon leader in an infantry unit, I was taught all about, you got to have your primary sector fire, your secondary sector fire, and you got to have your primary fighting positions and your secondary fighting positions and your alternate fighting positions and all that good stuff. And make sure your flanks are tied in, and you've got weapon systems covering the likely avenues of approach and all that good stuff. Well, that's great. This is a tabletop role-playing game, and it's a little more complex. Well, a little harder to make all that happen, but still, a flank attack is extremely effective, which is what almost happened to us here, and I'll explain to you how we got out of that. Now, in terms of game mechanics, a attack to the flank usually, I know off the top of my head in 3.5/Pathfinder edition, it gives you a +1 to hit, which is a greater, roughly a 5% chance increase in your chances of hitting your opponent. So a flank attack has a practical effect in both game mechanics and in your ability to deliver hurt on the enemy. So we were all focused here, and one of our smarter tacticians realized that, oh crap, our flank was wide open. We were all here. There's all this maneuver space here. What's going to happen? So we grabbed one of our archers and had him maneuver over to here. Whoops. Right there. And that had two practical effects. One, it established flank security. It gave us awareness as to what was going on our flanks. Two, it gave us a little firepower out there in order to cover anybody maneuvering against us from here. This quickly turned into quite the little archer duel. I think it was, I can't remember which one of these guys it was. One of these here archer dudes. They're NPCs, by the way, was out there, and he was getting into archery duels with the goblins. But more importantly, he sealed off that gap to our flanks. We couldn't be maneuvered on to our flank without us being aware of it, and without us being able to respond. Allowed the rest of us to continue to focus on killing hobgoblins as they came out of the cave. Now, if we didn't do that, the goblins would have been able to maneuver all the way up to here, and in the scale that these maps are at, that's like literally right on top of us. That's maybe 25 feet, I believe, on the map scale, maybe 30, and yeah, they would have been able to close the distance and attack us without us being able to respond. And then in turn, that could have given the hobgoblins an opportunity to make a sally from the cave and we would have been caught between a rock and a hard place. Or how was it pronounced? Skyella and Charbrede? I don't know. Regardless, securing our flank turned out to be a critical moment of this fight. Now, I'm going to flip this to another map and show a way this worked in a different environment. A little less kinetic this time, but the principles remain the same. All right. So here we are in a underground cave. Now, excuse me. A couple of things here. This was a rescue mission. This is a different cave, but we were entering it in order to rescue a group of merchants who had been captured. And I really need to move my camera because I keep looking over here at myself on the screen, and the camera's over here. So there were a group of merchants who had been captured by goblins who were being held captive. We were on a rescue mission. Now, this is pretty standard, Dungeons and Dragons type adventure. It's inside a traditional dungeon. Again, the sharp-eyed amongst you will note that this is, in fact, more the Caves of Chaos. And there's several key planning considerations when conducting a rescue mission like this. One, you have to be able to identify where the hostages are, or the people you need to rescue. You need to get there with sufficient force in order to eliminate any opposition, secure the hostages, and then you need to be able to get them out alive. So, several considerations there. One, you need to secure your route in and out. Why? Because if you get cut off on the rescue mission, the hostages may die, and you may die. You need to be able to provide medical support when you get there in case the hostages are in bad shape and need to be stabilized before they can be moved. That's a little more advanced thinking. But the key here is, one, identify where they're at. B, secure the route in and out. So, we maneuvered into the caves, came in through the entrance, and we identified their likely location, which, as I recall, we first started heading this way, which is where we believed them to be held. Now, the sharp-eyed amongst you will note that, look, there's an intersection here, right? What are you going to do at that intersection? Well, are you going to take the whole party down here? There's all this stuff that's unexplored down here that you don't know what's coming. You have no means of identifying without exploring it and clearing it out in its entirety. No means of identifying what could come up from there. Now, we'll talk about prioritization here for a second. Hostage rescue mission. What is the priority? The priority is to find the hostages and extract them alive. Get them back to safety. Not to clear the entire frickin' area. So, we started a maneuver and head west. Had a couple of encounters. I quickly realized Owain, the rather bright rogue thief, that we were leaving our rear completely open and thus subject to being cut off and defeated in isolation, being unable to extract the prisoners in anything approaching a living form, or for that matter, ourselves. So I grabbed a couple of the NPCs and started establishing rear and flank security. Owain, as a rogue, or thief rather, did the little sneaky Pete thing and came all the way down here and established a position with his bow so he could cover this area here. And anything that came up, he would either A, be able to provide an early warning, or B, be able to provide be able to kill them. Almost like a screen, kind of A screening force provides kind of a row. It gives the main force space to deploy and maneuver, and that's kind of what I was doing here. Screening to the flank. I posted another archer here. Actually, I put them here, covering down this corridor here. Now, some of you may look at that and go, oh, you could have accomplished both by just putting somebody up here. Kind of, sort of, but that's an awful lot of uncovered space. And since we had the combat power, and with our NPCs, basically a militia that came with us on the adventure, we had enough power that we could devote towards isolating these, establish blocking positions to isolate our egress route, or ingress and egress route. So there were a couple of engagements along the way. Some hobgoblins in this case did come up and try to enter, and I assume the dungeon master planned to block us off and keep us from escaping, but we were able to push that back and keep that from happening by establishing those blocking positions as flank and rear security. So those are the two fights I wanted to address in this session. I hope you guys enjoyed this third episode. I try not to make these particularly long. These are just kind of an opportunity to hear me yatter on about tactics in the tabletop role-playing game environment for 15-20 minutes or so. If you enjoy the show, please like, subscribe, and follow. If not, don't bother. Let me know if you have a fight of your own you want me to take a look at and break down and analyze. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach me at Drungeon Master through Twitter or via chat here on Twitch. But no, I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a good Sunday. It is snowing here in southern Maryland, and we're all going to hunker down and spend the rest of the weekend drinking coffee and hanging out and reading. So thanks again. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you not tomorrow Monday, but the Monday after, with another fight to break down and some more discussions about tactics in the tabletop role-playing game environment. Thank you and goodbye.